right now, millions of people are staring up at fireworks bursting over New York City.
Yeah.
While, halfway across the world, millions more are filling the streets of Tehran for massive funeral processions. But the real story today isn't what's happening on those streets.
Yeah, it's what's happening behind the scenes.
Exactly. It's the invisible digital scaffolding controlling exactly what the world is allowed to see. So welcome to today's deep dive. Today is Saturday, July 4, 2026.
Glad to be here.
And for you listening, our mission today is to really look past the surface of today's biggest headlines. We're talking America's 250th birthday, this intense new global AI race, and uncovering how all these seemingly separate global events are, well, they're deeply connected.
Yeah, they really are. It's a remarkable snapshot of modern civilization. Because we are watching these profound geopolitical shifts happen simultaneously with massive technological leaps.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today we have these two massive, highly contrasting national events, right?
Right.
And both are fundamentally driven by technological logistics. So let's start with the celebration. It's the Semiquincentennial.
Quite a word.
Yeah, try saying that 3 times fast. Basically, America turns 250 today. Millions of people are gathered at the National Mall in D.C., Independence Hall in Philly, and around Macy's 50th anniversary fireworks.
Which is a massive logistical undertaking.
It's wild. And, there's some heavy scrutiny going around right now regarding the unusual mix of taxpayer and corporate funding for these events. But I really want to look at the infrastructure because how do you even manage a crowd of millions in a post-AI world?
Well, you definitely don't do it with just physical barricades anymore. The logistics rely almost entirely on real-time crowd management analytics.
So what does that actually look like on the ground?
Authorities are essentially pulling data from cell towers, localized mesh networks, and camera feeds to map out human density.
Just tracking where the phones are?
Right. And if a specific street corner is approaching, say, a dangerous crush capacity, the analytics engine automatically reroutes digital signage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it issues localized mobile alerts to disperse the flow completely autonomously.
Yeah.
And then you add in the drone light shows that require this hyper-precise spatial computing to prevent mid-air collisions.
Because there are thousands of them up there.
Exactly. And, of course, a massive cybersecurity operation just to keep those local networks from being hijacked.
Which brings us to the stark contrast playing out in Iran today. Because July 4th falls right in the middle of 6 days of national mourning.
Yes, for their late supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Right, who was killed earlier this year at the outset of the U.S. Israel conflict. And the crowds there are staggering. Millions across Iran and Iraq. Plus, Tehran is hosting around 30 foreign delegations.
And, the makeup of those delegations is highly significant geopolitically.
I noticed that no Western nations are there.
Right. You have officials from Russia, Pakistan, and the Taliban present, while Western nations are entirely absent. The region is already on a nice edge, and Iran's military has actually issued formal warnings to the U.S. and Israel.
But the infrastructure underlying that event, that's what fascinates me here. Because in America, the digital network is being used to analyze the crowd. But in Iran, the digital network is being used to control the narrative.
Yes. The authorities are employing intense network throttling and satellite broadcast logistics.
And I always thought, throttling just meant turning off the internet. But it's way more surgical than that, isn't it?
Oh, considerably more surgical. Because shutting off the internet entirely harms the state's own infrastructure. It hurts their economy.
Right, you can't run the country without it.
Exactly. So instead, network throttling deliberately starves the bandwidth. They drop the data packets just enough so that citizens cannot upload high-resolution video.
Or live stream unauthorized protests, I assume.
But basic text and, crucially, state-approved broadcasts still get through. Yeah, it isolates the populace visually from the global community while maintaining the state's surveillance capabilities.
I was thinking about this like a massive stadium concert.
Okay, how so?
Well, while the whole world is watching the stage, so the fireworks over Macy's or the procession in Tehran, the real geopolitical story is happening at the soundboard. That's where the information flow and the cyber defenses are actually being actively managed.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it becomes clear why that soundboard dictates everything.
Right.
A national milestone is no longer just a physical gathering. The digital infrastructure isn't just supporting the event, it really is the event.
Because it controls the reality of it.
Precisely. The ability to project stability through a perfectly synchronized drone show or project authority by systematically choking off unauthorized video, that is how modern power is exercised.
And that reality, that power is now entirely digital, brings us right into our next major topic.
The arms race.
Yes. We are seeing this massive pivot from traditional physical defense to a new kind of digital arms race. Because the European Commission just unveiled 5 major cross-border defense projects.
With Portugal named early on as a participant, which is interesting.
Right. And the goal is to pool their procurement. Now, I understand why buying military gear together saves money, obviously. But why is this such a huge deal right now?
Well, historically, EU member states bought their own military capabilities in silos. So the French would buy one system, the Germans would buy another.
And they wouldn't necessarily work together.
Exactly. But modern deterrence isn't just about the armor on a tank anymore. Joint procurement today is largely about software, sensors, and interoperable digital standards.
So it's about the tech talking to each other.
Yes. Think about it. If a Portuguese radar detects an incoming threat, but it cannot instantly communicate with a Polish anti-air battery because their software languages don't match.
Then that physical hardware is completely useless. Exactly. Europe is finally realizing their defense relies on systems seamlessly talking to each other across borders.
Which naturally means whoever builds the smartest software holds the ultimate high ground.
Always.
Which brings us to the most intense digital arms race right now, which is, of course, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So OpenAI is floating this proposal to give the U.S. government a 5% equity stake ahead of their planned IPO.
Which is a massive chunk of change.
Yeah. Based on recent valuations, that stake would be worth roughly $42.6 billion.
Right.
Now, the argument they're making is that this is modeled on Alaska's oil revenue fund, like where the state invests natural resource revenue and pays a dividend to residents. They basically want to treat AI like a national resource.
And that is the core argument from supporters. They genuinely believe that since AI will fundamentally reshape the economy, the public deserves a direct share of the massive financial upside generated by these frontier models. Okay, but wait. Letting the government take a 5% stake, that sounds like letting the referee own a piece of the sports team they're supposed to be officiating.
That's a very apt way to put it.
I mean, how does that work? If the U.S. government suddenly has a $42 billion financial incentive for OpenAI to crush its competition, how can they possibly be trusted to strictly regulate them?
You've hit on the exact tension driving the current debate right now. Critics are fiercely arguing that this severely blurs the line between regulator and shareholder.
I would think so.
Right. If an AI company needs to be reined in for safety reasons, a government that relies on that company's stock for revenue might, hesitate to act.
They'd be hurting their own bottom line.
Exactly. And this debate is unfolding just days after OpenAI had to delay their next flagship model, which really underscores how volatile this whole industry remains.
And while Washington is busy debating, equity stakes and regulatory frameworks, China is moving incredibly fast to close the gap.
Very fast.
There's a Chinese startup called ZAI, and they just released a new model called GLM 5.2, and it's an open weight model. Help me out here, because I know open source means anyone can see the code, but what does open weight actually mean?
It's a crucial distinction in this space. So in AI, the weights are the parameters. They're the actual neural connections the AI learned during its training process.
Okay, so like the pathways in the brain.
Basically, yeah. If a model is closed, like ChatGPT, you interact with it through a web browser, but the company keeps the actual engine locked in their data center.
You just get the steering wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when ZII releases an open-weight model, they're essentially handing you the fully built engine. You can download it and run it on your own servers.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't get the billions of dollars of raw data they used to initially train it, but you get the powerful finished product to modify and use locally however you want.
And what's crazy is that GLM 5.2 nearly matches the top U.S. frontier models, but at 1/6 of the cost. Plus, because they built it themselves, they are completely bypassing U.S. export restrictions on advanced tech.
Which really highlights the immense pressure on the Western tech sector right now. You have these complex regulatory maneuvers, export controls, and debates over governance happening in the U.S. and Europe.
All this red tape.
Right. While China is just relentlessly pushing out low-cost, highly capable models. Now, Western enterprise companies are still very cautious about using a Chinese model due to internal data security concerns.
Oh, sure. Nobody wants to hand over their corporate data.
Exactly. But that price-to-performance gap is becoming almost impossible to ignore.
So what does this all mean for the rest of us? Because we have these macro-level geopolitical moves and multi-billion-dollar AI companies battling for dominance, but this stuff is actively altering reality downstream.
It's hitting local schools and human health, absolutely.
Yeah, let's look at Ohio. As of July 1st, 2026, a mandate took effect requiring every K-12 school district in the state to adopt a formal AI policy. Why did Ohio feel the need to rush this mandate before the federal government did anything?
Simply because local school districts are flying blind in a hurricane right now. The technology adoption curve has vastly outpaced the policy curve.
I can't even imagine being a teacher right now.
It's incredibly tough. Teachers are grappling with complex issues daily, like if a student uses an AI to outline an essay but writes the prose themselves, is that plagiarism?
Oh, that's tricky.
It is. And how do schools protect the data privacy of a minor when these AI models basically vacuum up every prompt entered into them?
Right, the AI is learning from the kids.
Exactly. And what does age-appropriate AI use even look like for an 8-year-old versus an 18-year-old? Ohio just realized they could not wait for Washington to figure this out.
And yet, those governance debates in Washington we just talked about, like OpenAI's potential government partnership, those directly dictate what happens in Ohio, don't they?
They absolutely do.
The data protection standards, the enterprise pricing models, the safety guardrails, it's like Washington decides the menu, and Ohio schools just have to figure out how to pay for the meal.
Precisely. But there is a proactive side to this educational shift, too. Look at Cobb County schools in Georgia.
Right. They just expanded computer science education to every single middle school.
Yeah, partnering with Project Lead the Way and the Caterpillar Foundation, the data overwhelmingly shows that well-supported STEM education at a young age is the most reliable on-ramp to technical careers.
So instead of just reacting to AI with fear, they're teaching students how to actually build the underlying architecture.
Which is exactly the right approach.
And speaking of that underlying architecture, we really have to talk about how AI is revolutionizing medicine, because this blew my mind.
It's an incredible breakthrough.
Yeah. Researchers at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai used an AI co-scientist to find what they call a druggable pocket in a cancer-related protein. Now, I had to look this up. I always thought proteins were just like static shapes.
Most people do.
But they're actually more like a crumpled microscopic ball of yarn that is constantly wiggling and folding.
That is a really great way to visualize it. Proteins are incredibly dynamic.
So when scientists try to create a drug to stop a cancer protein, they have to find a tiny gap, a pocket for the drug molecule to fit into.
Right.
But because the protein is wiggling, that pocket might only open up for a millionth of a second. Traditional tools could literally never see it.
They just aren't fast enough.
Right. But the AI co-scientists can simulate those movements millions of times over, predicting exactly when and where that hidden pocket will appear. It is literally like a master lock picker feeling for a hidden tumbler that no one else even knew was there.
Exactly. The AI does the immense computational heavy lifting. It's sifting through data sets and generating hypotheses that would take human researchers decades to calculate on their own. Yes. But crucially, the researchers emphasize that once the AI identifies that druggable pocket, human scientists still have to go into the physical lab, synthesize the compound, and run rigorous peer-reviewed trials to prove it actually works.
So in both Ohio classrooms and Mount Sinai labs, AI isn't replacing human critical thinking, it's just doing the heavy lifting. Are we finally starting to treat AI less like a sci-fi villain and more like a highly advanced calculator?
What's fascinating here is that we are maturing past the initial shock and awe of, chatbots writing poetry.
Right, the novelty is worn off.
Exactly. The most durable promise of AI lies in this quiet, cumulative work. It accelerates human potential. It finds the hidden keyhole in a cancer protein, leaving the human scientist to build the actual key.
But this is a big VESPA. If our schools, our governments, and our cancer labs are now entirely reliant on this digital scaffolding, the target on their backs is massive.
It is a massive target.
Which brings us to the urgent cybersecurity reality we are facing today. Because the threat landscape is moving at warp speed right now, we have a new vulnerability in a popular networking device called Citrix NetScaler.
Ah, yeah.
It's known as Citrix Bleed 2. And it was exploited in under 24 hours.
That speed is absolutely terrifying for network defenders. Because in cybersecurity, we talk about zero-day flaws.
Right.
A zero-day means the software vendor has known about the flaw for 0 days before the hacker started using it.
Yeah.
There's literally no time to prepare.
Wow.
And CISA, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, just mandated that all federal agencies patch a zero-day flaw in Microsoft SharePoint by today, July 4th.
And SharePoint is used by practically every school and enterprise for document storage.
Everywhere.
Now, the briefing says this is a remote code execution flaw. To translate that out of jargon, that essentially means a hacker sitting in a basement halfway across the world can command your server to run whatever malicious software they want without ever needing a password. It's like handing a stranger the steering wheel to your car while you're driving on the highway.
That is exactly what it means. It is a complete system compromise.
Patching these servers sounds boring, I know. It's basically like digital flossing.
Digital flossing, I like that.
Right. Nobody wants to do it. But if you don't floss, plaque hardens into tartar and the rot sets in. In the digital world, an unpatched vulnerability hardens into an open back door for ransomware gangs.
And they will find it.
Yeah. And with Citrix Bleed 2 exploited in under 24 hours, that digital decay is happening overnight.
The digital flossing metaphor is spot on. But, there's a highly encouraging side to this arms race, too.
Oh, good. Some good news.
Yes. Major tech companies are deploying immense resources to find these flaws before the hackers do. For example, Google just shipped a record 382 fixes for its Chrome browser, 15 of them being critical.
That's huge.
And Apple patched over 36 flaws across its operating systems.
And the how is the coolest part of that. Because Apple actually used AI-assisted vulnerability discovery to find several bugs in their WebKit engine.
Which perfectly illustrates the dual nature of AI right now.
Right.
Attackers are absolutely using AI offensively to scan networks and find exploits faster than ever. But as Apple is proving, AI is also rapidly maturing as a defensive shield. It can map millions of lines of code to spot the tiny, hidden vulnerabilities before they are ever exploited in the wild.
And that defensive mindset is also saving schools money, because Apple has a big update coming, iOS 27. And rather than gatekeeping all the new features for the most expensive brand new hardware, they're actually extending meaningful support to older devices.
Which is great for sustainability.
Exactly. It connects right back to those K-12 IT budgets in Ohio and Georgia, because if you're running a one-to-one iPad program for middle schoolers, being able to safely use an iPad for 6 years instead of 4 is a massive financial victory.
It really is.
It's sustainable for the budget, and it keeps e-waste out of landfills.
It's a prime example of how software optimization directly impacts physical world resources.
Okay, so we've covered geopolitical tensions, zero-day vulnerabilities, and intense AI debates. Let's shift gears a bit, because humans don't just build this incredible, vulnerable digital scaffolding to fight cyber wars.
Thankfully, no.
We also use it to share absolute joy, and the cultural milestones happening today are fantastic. For one, the 2026 FIFA World Cup is in full swing across the U.S., Canada, and Mexico.
And it's the first time the tournament has featured 48 teams. The cultural crossover is generating some incredible moments online.
Like Brazil just defeating Japan in that thrilling knockout match.
That was intense.
And the fans are just taking over the internet. I mean, Americans are suddenly obsessed with this Icelandic Viking row chant happening in the stands.
I've seen those videos.
They're everywhere. And there's a massive Scottish tartan takeover going viral. But I think my favorite part is the World Cup tourists visiting the U.S. for the first time. They're racking up millions of views just reacting to American diner food and our outrageously huge portion sizes.
The digital infrastructure we discussed earlier, the exact same networks being throttled in Iran or protected by AI at Apple, is simultaneously facilitating this massive, joyful exchange of global culture.
It's amazing. And naturally, the internet found a way to make it a meme.
Of course.
A years-old episode of The Simpsons is going incredibly viral today because fans insist the show perfectly predicted the 2026 World Cup final matchup.
It never ends with The Simpsons.
It really doesn't. Plus, we have what everyone is calling America's royal wedding dominating the trending topics. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding in New York City.
It is a fascinating juxtaposition.
Right.
Because our feeds are so saturated with celebrity weddings and sports memes, but underneath all that loud cultural noise, there is actually some genuinely profound good news for humanity today that really deserves our attention.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because you scroll past the Simpsons meme, and you find out that Europeans are breathing measurably cleaner air and science has conclusively linked a healthy diet to a lower risk of dementia. Let's talk about the air quality first. How did that actually happen?
Well, it's the result of compounding incremental policy choices.
Just slow and steady work.
Exactly. Over the last decade, strict emissions standards, the rapid adoption of electric vehicles, and the systematic shutdown of coal plants across the European continent have dramatically reduced particulate matter in the atmosphere.
Wow.
And the data now shows a sustained, measurable drop in respiratory issues. It essentially proves that large-scale environmental degradation is reversible when the policy matches the science.
And the dementia research is just as powerful. The briefing highlights that a healthy diet is now conclusively linked to lowering your risk. We're talking about the Mayan diet, right? The
Correct.
blend of the Mediterranean and DSH diets.
Yes, the MIND diet. The longitudinal data is now robust enough to definitively show that diets rich in leafy greens, berries, nuts, and healthy fats actively reduce inflammation in the brain.
And that slows cognitive decline.
Exactly, it slows it down significantly.
So eating a salad today literally builds a protective shield for your brain decades from now. It is incredible.
It serves as a vital reminder. Steady progress hides behind the headlines.
Yeah.
While loud moments like a World Cup or a celebrity wedding bring us immediate shared joy, the everyday choices leading to clean air and resilient cognitive health are the true, lasting milestones of human progress.
So let's look at the journey we just took today. We started by uncovering the invisible digital soundboard running America's 250th birthday and a tightly controlled state funeral in Iran.
Right.
We explored how the defense industry and AI labs are locked in a digital arms race, where software interoperability and open weight models dictate the future of global power.
And how it trickles down.
Exactly. We saw how those AI models are forcing local schools to write new rules while simultaneously acting like a master lockpicker to help scientists fight cancer. We looked at the warp speed reality of zero-day threats and the critical importance of digital flossing.
Gotta patch those servers.
Absolutely. And finally, we saw how underneath the memes and the soccer chants, human beings are quietly making the air cleaner and our minds healthier.
It is a deeply interconnected web. Every single technological advancement and policy decision we discussed ultimately trickles down to impact the quality of human life.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. We talked earlier about OpenAI floating the idea of giving the U.S. government a 5% financial stake.
Right, the $42 billion proposal.
Yeah, so the public shares in the financial upside of AI. But think about what we just discussed. If an AI co-scientist is actively discovering hidden cancer treatments at Mount Sinai, and Apple's AI is actively defending our schools' iPads from cyber attacks, isn't the real upside of AI the acceleration of human progress itself?
That's a great point.
How do you even measure the public's share of a saved life or an unhacked hospital? If we only focus on the financial equity, are we missing the bigger picture entirely?
This raises an essential question about how society defines true value in an age of exponential technological growth.
Exactly. Something to mull over as you go about your day. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We appreciate you spending your time with us. Stay curious, keep asking questions, and remember, no matter what the massive geopolitical headlines say, there is always something out there worth smiling about. See you next time.